I want to bring in now Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, who has pushed for Mr. Frerichs' release. Senator, thank you so much for being on the show this afternoon.
Thank you for having me on. It's a wonderful day.
So tell me more about this. I have a bunch of questions for you, but let me start with Mr. Frerichs' condition right now. Do you have any idea how he's doing?
My only information I've had is that physically he seems to be doing well, but he needs to go through a full medical check. That'll be his next step. Will be to go to a U.S. Military medical facility, most likely somewhere in Germany, I would think. But he'll need to get a full physical rundown and then also counseling, and then it'll be up to him when he's ready to come home. But I hope he goes through a full analysis of his health.
We understand you spoke with President Biden about this exchange. What was your message to him?
Well, I've been pleading with the administration now for over 2 years. Back in February of 2021, I actually had to ask for and received a personal meeting in the Oval Office with the president, pushing for him to approve this prisoner swap. The Taliban has been very clear from the very beginning, over 2.5 years ago, that they wanted Norzai as the swap for Mark. We've been unwilling to do that, and it took a good 2 years of actually a big chunk of it was negotiating within the administration itself, convincing them why it was feasible to release Norzai in exchange for Mark, not the least being that Norzai is an elderly man in poor health. In fact, he was moved to a prison in upper state New York because his health was so bad that he needed special health care and, at the American taxpayers' expense. So it was part of it was just me convincing the president, hey, this guy's going to die on our hands and we're still not going to get Mark back. Let's stop taking care of his health at taxpayers' expense and let's get an American Navy veteran home. And I'm so glad the president agreed to it.
Mark Frerichs was just kidnapped by militants, basically, in Afghanistan. Can you give us some insight into the conditions he'd been held under since 2020?
Well, it's really been hard to see. He was taken by the Haqqani network, I believe, which is, related to the Taliban. They have been occasionally releasing his health, proof of health, proof of life videos. We really didn't get very much until this past year, in particular after the Biden administration took over. Then we started to get more information. But just watching the videos, you could see that his health was failing. And then when we started really negotiating with them, it looked like he started to get better nutrition. He seemed to be better, although his mental state, obviously as anyone who's been in captivity for 2.5 years would be, was something we were worried about.
There is sometimes a discussion, I think often this is part of the subtext here, when there is discussion or an actual prisoner swap that happens of what kind of a precedent does this set as it relates to maybe hostile actors overseas who are looking to capitalize on Americans being in their countries or on their territory. Help us understand why this felt like something that has been so important to you. I know obviously has been important to the Frerichs family.
Well, first and foremost, it was important to me because I've been shot down behind enemy lines. I took it very personally. This is my constituent. He's from Lombard, which was also part of my old congressional district. I've been representing his family now for 10 years. But also just personally as a soldier, part of the soldier's creed is you don't leave a fallen comrade behind. And as someone who was not left behind when I was shot down, and the bad guys were several hundred yards away from where my helicopter lay in a field in Iraq, and my buddies carried me out, I knew the fear and the danger that I was in. And so I was not going to stop until we got Mark home. He deserved to be brought home, especially being a Navy veteran, especially as someone who was in Afghanistan serving for the people of the United States. And so it for me was very, very important to work on this to get him back. The other thing, speaking of the prisoner swap, in July of this past year, the president did something that I thought was very meaningful, which is he signed a new executive order that created ways to impose new costs, extensive costs on any terrorist organizations, any criminal groups, any malicious actors who might think that they could start taking U.S. citizens hostage in exchange for other gains. And that executive order was a big piece of why I felt that it was okay to do this swap. And of course, the second thing I've already mentioned, the fact that the prisoner that we had was probably going to die in a U.S. prison anyway. So why as well get him off of the taxpayers' books and stop paying for his health care, and let's get Mark home.
Senator Tammy Duckworth. Senator Duckworth, thank you for being on what I know is an important day for you, for the Frerichs family. We hope to have you back on the show. Obviously, a lot of other topics to talk about sometime soon. Appreciate it.